This video is to demonstrate the process of reflashing the compute module on the SensorStation with the most recent stable software update. We already have a video showing you how to update the software on your SensorStation. That can be done with simple connection to the internet. This reflashing of the entire compute module is for those circumstances where it's been a really long time since you've upgraded the software, or things just don't seem to be working as they should, and you want to have a fresh, completely new start with the most recent stable version of the SensorStation software. So that's what we'll do in this video. I already have the SensorStation that I'm going to reflash operational, and in particular showing the IP address that I can use in my web browser to connect to the web interface. So I'm going to pull that up. As we can see in the video, or in the web interface, which version of the software we're currently using. And so for this particular SensorStation, and this is a version 2 SensorStation, I'm using the 2021 July image. So the most recent one as of the date of this recording in December of 2022 is a June 2022 update. So I'm going to reflash this SensorStation to upgrade to the most recent stable version, the June 2022 version. You can check whether your station needs to be updated or whether you'd like to have it updated using the web interface. To actually do the update, we don't need to be connected to the web interface. So I'm going to go back to our SensorStation overview, and I'm actually going to turn off the power. Don't need the web interface connection, so I'll disconnect that. And then the instructions for doing this are provided online, and the way you can find them is to simply, in a search engine, say Google for example, just search for CTT user guide, and what you get as one of the first hits is the Cellular Tracking Technologies user guide directory. So we're going to go there, and the process we're doing today is flashing the compute module. So I'm going to open this guide, and we need to do a few things before we can actually start this process. There's some information here on why you might want to do this. I've already talked a little bit about it, but please read through this. I also mentioned this update that I'm installing today, or this new flash version that I'm installing today, applies to version 2 and 3 SensorStations. If you have an older version 1 SensorStation, there are separate instructions there. So the first thing you need to do is actually download this image, the software image, from CTT to your device. In this case, I'm using a Windows machine, so all of the instructions will be specific to Windows. There are Linux and Mac instructions below, but we won't explore those today. So download the station image. This is a zip file, and you may be able to see at the bottom of the screen that it is the June 28th, 2022 SensorStation image. So download that. It's a little over a gigabyte, so it might take some time depending on your connection. And then we also need to download a software program that can burn the image, either a Raspberry Pi Imager or a Balena Etcher. I have already downloaded the Raspberry Pi Imager and installed it. And then we also, since we're running this on Windows, we need to download and run the Windows installer, which puts a small little program called RPi boot on our machine that we'll use. So I've already downloaded RPi boot, I've already downloaded and installed RPi imager, and I've already downloaded the newest station image. So with that done, we can return to the sensor station. And the first thing that we have to do is tweak or move this little jumper pin up here just above the power button. Not sure why that won't focus. There we go. So we have 3 pins, and there is a little jumper section on there that's connected to the rightmost 2. That is disabling our ability to boot this sensor station from our computer, or from the USB connection that we'll make here in a moment. We need to move this pin, 1 pin to the left, into the enable position. And it can be hard to reach, so I often use a set of pliers, small set of pliers, to remove the jumper. And even so, it's still tricky. So it's just a little plastic jumper that fits over 2 pins. We want it on the leftmost 2 of those pins, as I mentioned. So we have moved it. Once that's done, we need a USB to micro USB cable, and these are not all created equal. So here is the micro USB, and here is the micro USB port on the sensor station that we'll be connecting to, and at the other end it's just a standard USB connector. I say these are not all created equal. Some of them are only made for power transfer to be used as power supplies. Others are also capable of data transmission, and we have to make sure that we are using a micro USB cable that is capable of data transmission. Otherwise, it will not work, and you will just be frustrated. So fortunately, most vendors that I've found will tell you whether it is power only, or recharging only, or also capable of data transmission. So make sure. There was a little weather or dust protector cap on the USB port. So we're going to connect our data transfer capable micro USB cable here. The other end is connected to my Windows computer. And once that is done, we can go back to the instructions. So if we come back to our instructions, we've met all these software requirements. We've downloaded the image. We have the Raspberry Pi imager. We have the RPi boot executable downloaded. Linux and Mac doesn't apply to this particular installation. So they've outlined the steps to burn the image, of which we've already accomplished some. We powered down the sensor station. We reconnected the USB boot jumper pin to the enabled mode by moving it 1 pin to the left. And now we need to run the RPi boot program, which can be accomplished by simply searching for it in the Windows button, or with the Windows button. So that opens this little window. Then we can plug the micro USB cable into the sensor station and into the computer. We have already accomplished that. And then the next step is to power on the sensor station. And when I do that, if all is working, if I have the correct micro USB cable, you'll get some code that is processed through the RPi boot screen. And when this is all completed, the sensor station will be recognized as a drive, a hard drive, and you'll get all of these warnings about formatting the new drive. Ignore all those, close all those, do no formatting, don't try to fix anything. Just close all of the pop-up windows that come from that process. And it warns you of this. The RPi boot screen dialog box will disappear after some messaging. The module is available as a hard drive. So now the next step is to open the Raspberry Pi imager. You can find that from the start menu as well. You do want to allow it to make changes. And then the steps here are to first choose the downloaded zip file that has the new software image. And for that we scroll down to use a custom image from our computer. Here it is on my machine. We simply highlight it and open it. So we have that image loaded, ready to install, and now we need to choose where that is. So under Storage, select your Raspberry Pi compute module, which will usually have this identification. And then we simply click Write. And it will say, are you sure you want to do this? And in this case, we do. So this process will take some time. And I'll leave this here running and speed through the process once as it writes and then verifies the new image. So we're almost complete with the new software installation. It has gone through the writing process and now the verification process. Looks like it will take just a bit over 10 minutes. So once that's complete, it will again present you with a bunch of pop-ups about formatting this new drive. We're ignoring all of those, of course. Software has been written. We can remove the SD card, which is not an SD card in this case, but it doesn't know that. So close the imager. Let's look back at our instructions here. It does take a while. Again, about 10 or 15 minutes on this particular installation. We will move the USB jumper pin back to its original disabled position. So I'll illustrate that. And then we will restart the sensor station and I'll show you where the new software version is reflected. Alright, back at the sensor station. I'm going to power off before I do this swap. Can disconnect our micro USB cable. No longer need it. And we have the fun and tricky job of moving this jumper pin back to the right one space to disable USB booting. If I can get it to focus. Guess not. Yeah, there we go. So the USB jumper pin, or the jumper pin, is back to its disabled position. Micro USB is disconnected, so now it's a simple process of powering it back up. I'm going to go ahead and connect my Ethernet cable here so I can get to the web interface. Okay, the SensorStation has booted successfully. I already know the IP address, but we could find it within the network menu if we needed to know the address to connect to for accessing the SensorStation's web interface. And now if we navigate over to that, we see that we have here in the system versioning details section the June 28th, 2022 software image, which is what we wanted. And you could always, down here in the server utilities section, run the station update to see if there are any over-the-air minor updates to be applied. In this case, there are not. I have the most up-to-date version completely. You might see some minor updates that get applied, but it shouldn't take long at all. Again, you can refer back to the station update video for details on this process. That's it. We are running our version 2 SensorStation here with the most up-to-date station image and the most up-to-date over-the-air updates. And so that's all there is to it.